What are different branches of ethics? So we can say there are 4 different branches of ethics. One is descriptive ethics. Descriptive ethics. The second one is normative ethics. The third one is meta ethics. And the fourth one, applied ethics. In this session, let's try to understand each of these branches along with relevant examples. So let's begin with the first branch of ethics, which is descriptive ethics. Descriptive ethics. What is ethics? Ethics is a set of standards generally accepted by a social setting. What is descriptive ethics? As the name suggests, descriptive ethics tries to describe. It simply tries to describe how people behave in real life situations, how people handle moral dilemmas, how people look at certain values like honesty, like integrity, like saying truth all the time, right? It tries to describe. You need to understand this word describe. Describe and prescribe, both are absolutely different. When you prescribe, you say what to be done. You have to do this, you have to do that. That is prescribe. For example, whenever you go to a doctor gives you prescription saying you need to take these tablets twice daily or thrice daily. So prescription tells you what to do. Prescription tells you what to do. Whereas description tells you what it is. For example, looking at your medical report, if doctor says, based on your report, I can tell you that you are in 4th stage of cancer. What is the doctor trying to do there? He is describing your scenario. So description is all about telling what is happening. If someone tells you what is happening, that is description. If someone tells you what should be done, that is prescription. Let's say when you say there is a lot of crime happening today in the society, that is description. We need to do the following to arrest crime, that is prescription. I hope you have understood the difference between description and prescription, describe and prescribe. Descriptive ethics is all about describing. It's all about describing how things are in society right now. It's not about how things should be. It only tells us how things are in society right now. It is completely a value-free approach. Value-free approach means it doesn't ascribe values to certain things. It is not judgmental. It doesn't say whether something is right or more valuable than the other. It only says this is how it is happening now. It only looks at the descriptive part of it, and it never tries to be judgmental. It never tries to prescribe something. That is all about descriptive ethics. I'll give you one example. Let's say you are studying how often people lie in different situations. You are engaging in descriptive ethics. For example, you might observe that people tend to lie more when they are under pressure or when they know that they won't get caught. They won't get caught. So what have you done? You have described. You have engaged in descriptive ethics. You are figuring out when people lie, right? Similarly, you might do a social experiment. You go to a place and you put your wallet on the road and see how people react to that, because that is not their money. You will observe whether they are putting the wallet in their pocket, or whether they are giving it to the police station, or whether they are trying to look at the address or the phone number of the rightful owner and contact him. So what are you doing there? You are just observing and describing how people behave with respect to other people's money. Let's say you go to a state. I am giving multiple examples. You go to a state like Andhra Pradesh and observe the phenomenon of dowry. So dowry may be illegal, but whether that society of Andhra Pradesh accepts dowry happily, or do they look at it as a crime? and you are making an observation. And then you compare it with how people in Tamil Nadu look at dowry. You are doing a cross-cultural study. This is an example of descriptive ethics. So you can take 100 examples. Here we are not being judgmental. We are not ascribing values. We are not saying something is better than other. We are just telling what is happening. We are just simply describing things as they are. This is all about descriptive ethics. So you might also want to look at how the system of dowry evolved over a period of time, the evolution of a particular quality, the evolution of a particular phenomenon, and you are describing how it evolved over a period of time. Even that can be an example of descriptive ethics. I hope you are getting it. Descriptive ethics doesn't try to be judgmental. It tells us what it is right now, how people behave right now, how things are right now, how things evolved over a period of time. It never tries to be judgmental. It never gives you any advice. It is not prescriptive, it is only descriptive. I hope you have got it. Let's look at the second branch of ethics, which is normative ethics. What is normative ethics and how is it different from descriptive ethics? What is ethics? Ethics is nothing but a set of standards which are generally accepted by a social setting. But how do we arrive at those standards? So normative ethics deals with arriving at those standards which are generally accepted by the social setting. It looks at providing the norms or the rules or the principles or the guidelines for arriving at those ethical standards. Descriptive ethics looks at how people are exhibiting, whether people are exhibiting those ethical standards or not. But normative ethics deals with how to arrive at those ethical standards. How to arrive at those ethical standards. I will give you a few examples. You will easily understand. In ethics, understanding everything with examples will make it easy for you. Now I will give you two examples. There are two theories within ethics called consequentialism and deontology. Both of them are normative ethical theories. You will understand why I am calling them normative ethical theories when you hear me out. So what is consequentialism? Consequentialism says an action, any action, right? Any action is good or bad depending upon the consequences it produces. If the consequence of the action is positive for you, then the action is right. If the consequence of the action is negative for you, then the action is wrong. That is the theory of consequentialism. So any theory is ethical, any action is considered ethical when it produces or maximizes happiness for you or minimizes pain for you. Any action that maximizes happiness or minimizes pain for you is good. Anything that maximizes your pain or minimizes your happiness is not good. As simple as that. So consequentialism is providing a guideline to decide whether an action is ethical or unethical. What is that guideline? Look at the consequence or the outcome. If the outcome is good, then the action is good. If the outcome is bad, then the action is bad. As simple as that. I'll give you one example. So there is a saying which says you can tell 100 lies to get a person married. You can tell 100 lies to get a person married, right? The outcome is marriage, which is a good thing. For that you can take up lying as well. So consequentialism doesn't look at lying as an absolute quality. It looks at lying, it looks at the consequences of lying. If lying leads to happiness, if lying gives a positive outcome, then for a consequentialist, even lying is not bad. Are you getting it? Are you getting it? It always looks at the outcome of the action. It always looks at the consequence of the action. The consequence or the outcome is positive, then the action is ethical. The consequence or the outcome is negative, then the action is unethical according to consequentialism. According to consequentialism. So consequentialism is a normative ethical theory. So what is it trying to do? If you understand it clearly, it is trying to provide us a guideline. So we are confused. Which one is ethical, which one is not ethical? So consequentialism is providing us with a guideline saying, if any action that you are planning to do gives you happiness, that is ethical. If any action that you are planning to do gives you pain, that is unethical. So you can use this guideline and decide whether to do something or not. So normative ethics is all about giving or providing those guidelines for coming out with acceptable standards of behavior. So this is one example of normative ethical theory. I'll give you other example. This is another theory called deontology. So deontology says you should never look at the consequences, but you should look at the action itself. Irrespective of the action, irrespective of the consequences, there are always certain universal moral codes, and your action must comply with those universal moral codes. If your action doesn't comply with those universal moral codes, then that is unethical. If it complies with universal moral codes, then that is ethical. It doesn't depend on the consequence. It doesn't depend on the consequence. For example, you are there. I think you might have heard about this character called Satya Harishchandra. So he always says truth. Let's say truth is a universal moral code, and by saying truth, you are getting into lot of troubles. By saying truth, you are getting into lot of troubles. Still, a deontologist would say you continue saying truth. So you should never look at the outcome. We should always look at whether your action complies with certain universal moral codes. But for a consequentialist, here, if you are saying truth, if it leads to a lot of problems, then that is unethical. That is unethical. But for a deontologist, you have to stick to moral code irrespective of the outcome. So deontology is complete opposite of consequentialism. Both of them are ethical theories. Both of them are providing norms for arriving at ethical standards. While deontology says action must comply with certain universal moral codes, consequentialism says action should be judged right or wrong based on the outcomes or the consequences it produces. If the outcome is positive, then it is ethical. If the outcome is negative, then it is unethical. So what you need to understand is normative ethics as a branch of study. What does it try to do? It tries to come out with certain guidelines. It tries to come out with certain principles. For what? To arrive at what is ethical and what is unethical. What is ethical and what is unethical. And one example is consequentialism. The other example is deontology. I hope you have got it clear now. Now let's look at the third branch of ethics, which is meta-ethics. So this is quite complicated. So listen carefully. So what is meta-ethics? Meta-ethics is also known as second-order ethics. Rest of the ethics are first-order ethics. It is called second-order ethics because it goes one step deeper. You will understand when you completely hear me out. But what is the meaning of meta? The word meta means beyond or about. When I say meta-ethics, it means beyond ethics or about ethics. I'll give you one more example. Metadata. Let's say I have taken a photo. I have taken a picture. So picture is also an example of data, right? What is metadata? When was this picture taken? Time. Where was this picture taken? Place. What are the properties of the picture, which means size? What is the quality or the resolution of the picture? All these things you can call metadata. Metadata is data about data. So picture is an example of data, and you are providing data about the data by providing time, place, size and quality of that picture. So this is all about the word meta. I hope you have understood the meaning of the word meta, which means beyond or about. Now let's come to ethics, which is meta ethics. Meta ethics means we will look at an ethical standard and then we will evaluate it further. We will dig it deeper. I'll start with a statement saying torture is wrong. So you have to pay full attention here. I am saying torture is wrong. So a meta-ethical study looks at this statement and it digs it deeper. So let's analyze it from meta-ethical point of view. If you look at it from meta-ethical point of view, you will ask questions like, is this objective or subjective? What do we mean by objective and subjective? If it is objective, it is not influenced by personal opinions. It is not influenced by personal opinions. It is completely based on fact. And if it is subjective, it is influenced by personal opinions. So that is one question a meta-ethicist might ask. He looks at a moral statement, moral judgment or an ethical standard and he digs deeper. Is this statement true for him or it is true for everyone? Is it objective or it is influenced by a person's opinions? This is a meta-ethical study or meta-ethical statement. Now, meta-ethical thinking. Now I'll put one more question. Is this universal or is this culture specific? Is this culture specific? So you are taking a moral statement called torture is wrong. Is this universally true or it is true in only certain cultures and it is not true in certain other cultures? So this is again a meta-ethical question. I'll take one more kind of question. Now whenever you say a statement like torture is wrong or stealing is wrong, does it express a person's belief system or is it only his emotion? What is the difference between these two? Belief is something that stays within him. He believes in that concept that torture is wrong. So whenever he says torture is wrong, is it coming out of his belief system which is within him or it is coming out of his emotion which may be spontaneous? He may be looking at someone beating his wife or torturing his wife and he instantly reacts and expresses his emotion. That's it. But inherently he may not be against torture, but sometimes you need torture to get the truth out of the person. You might have that kind of belief, but at that point of time you have expressed an emotion saying torture is wrong. So in that case his emotion is coming out, not his belief. Just by looking at his word, just by looking at his statement, you can't say that is his belief system. You can just say that is his instant emotion. Right? So meta-ethical questions are like that. Does it express his emotion or belief? Is it universally true or culture specific? Is it objective or subjective? This is how meta-ethics digs deeper into fundamental notion of morality itself. It doesn't look at morality on the face value and accept it. It digs deeper. It goes one level below. That is why it is called second order ethics, whereas normative ethics and descriptive ethics are known as first order ethics. It goes one level below. If you look at it, normative ethics is providing standards or guidelines, okay, to decide what is ethical. And meta-ethics is going one step deeper and saying whatever you are saying as ethical, is it objective or subjective? Is it universally true or culture specific? Is it an expression of belief or is it an expression of emotion? It looks at those fundamental aspects of these ethical questions. That is what meta-ethics is all about. It is little more complicated, little more philosophical than normative ethics. The last branch of ethics is applied ethics. Applied ethics. So what is applied ethics? It involves application of ethical principles. It involves application of ethical principles to specific real world scenarios, specific real world issues. and scenarios and different branches of life. For example, medical ethics. Medical ethics is all about applying ethical principles in the field of medicine. Business ethics, applying ethical principles in the field of business. And then environmental ethics, applying ethical principles in the field of environment. Right? In medical field, you have a lot of moral dilemmas. For example, is euthanasia correct or wrong? You know euthanasia, right? Or assisted suicide. Someone is in no position to recover, so it is better to kill him rather than allow him to experience pain throughout his life. That is called assisted suicide. So is assisted suicide or euthanasia right or wrong? Is abortion right or wrong? Should we give priority to the bodily autonomy of a woman or the right to life of the baby inside? Right? Or patient confidentiality. Patient confidentiality. Should a doctor reveal the confidential information of the patient or should he keep it with him? All these things are ethical dilemmas, and medical ethics provide guidelines as to how to behave and how to act in certain scenarios or certain dilemmas. Coming to business, even in business you face lot of ethical dilemmas. Should I give importance to profitability or employee satisfaction? Should I give importance to profitability or customer satisfaction? All these are ethical dilemmas. So there is a scenario, there could be a scenario where you have double charged the customer and customer didn't realize it. Right? So customer paid twice to you, he didn't realize and he was happy and he left. What should you do in such scenario? Should you look for profit maximization and pocket the money, or should you look at long-term relationship of the customer and return the money, or should you look at it from a completely ethical point of view and decide that is not my money and I should return it? So these are ethical dilemmas even in businesses. For example, to achieve a certain objective in business, you might have to do something wrong. You might have to do something wrong, like you might have to bribe a politician to get a project. So what should you do in such scenario? So business ethics provide guidelines, right, on how to behave in such scenarios, how to break such moral dilemmas. So this is what application of ethics to real world situations is like. And coming back to environmental ethics, let's say you're coming out with a project and that project creates lot of employment, but it also creates lot of pollution, and this project is critical for the survival of the company, but that project will pollute all water bodies within the vicinity of that area, within the vicinity. So what should you do? Again, an environmental ethical dilemma. So environmental ethics provide guidelines. So when you apply, ethics is nothing but set of standard guidelines. If you keep it in mind, it becomes easy for you to understand. So when you have set of standard guidelines in every area of life, it becomes easy for you to navigate these dilemmas. So this is all about applied ethics. Now we have covered the 4 branches of ethics: descriptive, normative, meta and applied ethics. Now let's try to summarize the entire stuff with this one diagram. Look at this particular part. This is your set of standards or ethics. This is your set of standards or ethics, and these tick marks are your ethical standards. Let's assume it that way. Now what does normative ethics do? Normative ethics provide guidelines. Normative ethics provide principles or standards to arrive at these standards. So how do we arrive at stealing is wrong? How do we arrive at speaking truth is correct? So normative ethics gives you those guidelines. For that, it gives you certain theories like deontology, which says action should be based on universal moral truth. It should not be linked to the consequences. Even if the consequences are negative, your action should always stick to universal moral truth. Mahatma Gandhi is a classic example. He never looked at the consequence. He always stuck to means. He never looked at the ends. The means have to be correct all the time, irrespective of the ends. Ahimsa, non-violence, satyagraha, all these are means of Mahatma Gandhi. Irrespective of the consequences, he never shied away from them. That is the example of deontology. The other one, consequentialism. So an action is right or wrong based on the consequences it produces. If violence gives us independence, then violence is correct. If violence gives us bloodshed, then violence is wrong. It doesn't give you independence, it will only give a lot of loss to India, then violence is wrong. So an action is considered ethical or unethical based on the outcome it produces. That is consequentialism, and the other one is deontology. So normative ethics brings out or comes out with certain norms to arrive at ethical standards. It gives you guidelines. Now on the other hand, meta ethics looks at the moral statements. It digs them deeper. It looks at the meaning, nature and scope. For example, if I say torture is wrong, it looks at the scope. What is the scope of this moral statement? Is it universally accepted, or it is only culture specific? Is it person dependent, or it is objective and it is true for everyone? It looks at those kind of analysis. That is meta ethics. Descriptive ethics looks at how people are applying these ethical standards in real life scenario. Let's say this is one society and this is another society, and how this society is applying these principles, how this society is applying these principles. Are they following? Are they not following? How this society looks at honesty, how this society looks at honesty, how this society looks at stealing, how this society looks at stealing, and how this society looks at lying, and how the other society looks at lying. How they are behaving in real life moral dilemmas. Whenever you are faced with a moral dilemma, how this society behaves and how this society reacts. That is descriptive ethics. And applied ethics is all about applying these ethical standards to specific areas in real life, like medicinal ethics, business ethics, environmental ethics, political ethics, and you can apply ethics to any branch in real life. This is how you can summarize the 4 branches of ethics. I hope I have made it easy for you. Take care. Bye.